Well, hello friends and welcome to Unova. Today I want to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black using only flying type Pokemon. This has been a highly requested video in the comment section, and every time we get a comment requesting this video, I run back to my playlist because there's a little bit of confusion on my end. See, I think I've done a hardcore Nuzlocke of flying only Pokemon in Gen 5. I haven't. What I did was a Pokemon White 2 normal only run where I have Braviary as the thumbnail, creating a little bit of confusion on my end. Since we haven't done a flying only run in Gen 5, today is the day. Now the first flying type encounter that we can find is a Pidove on Route 3. That is after the first gym, so I took to the Universal Randomizer to change one of these starters into a Pidove, so we have a flying type throughout the entire run. It really doesn't matter which starter we changed. We will be super effective against both the Snivy and Tepig line, so I opted to change Snivy into a flying type to try to give myself a little bit of a challenge, but really, this was a mistake. In the very first battle against Bianca, we lost, which technically isn't a wipe, but I reset because the Pidove had a minus speed nature, and I don't want to deal with that. So in attempt 2, the Pidove that we have named Delta has a lax, plus defense and minus special defense nature. I think this is going to work out in our favor a little bit better. In Accumula Town, we get to meet Team Plasma, and this is this Pokemon's version of a cult, right? Every version has one. Team Rocket, Team Plasma, Team Flare. You get it. Getsis is the ultimate Pokemon trainer that we have to battle, and N is the penultimate trainer that we get to meet here. In Gen 5, we have 3 rivals. They are N, Bianca, and Charon. Of course, none of them can be nicknamed, so in my head, I have nicknamed them Algorithm, because we're trying to beat the Algorithm both in-game and in real life. Once we beat N, we only have one more challenge after that, and I think we can do it in this run. Charon and Bianca are going to be relatively easy, or they should be, rather, so I'm not too worried about them. The real-life Algorithm, however, is much more difficult to defeat, and I need your help to do it. This is the interactive portion of the video. I need you guys to go into the comment section, leave a comment, leave a like. Check to see if you're subbed. If you're watching these videos each and every week, you might not be subscribed to the channel, and it does help out a ton. Of course, hitting the notification bell and sharing this video with anybody you deem fit helps out the channel 10 tons. And once again, thank you guys so much for the continued support. You guys are absolutely amazing. Now, I've said this before, but key to winning a run like this where we have limited encounters is knowledge. My knowledge comes from playing through these games multiple times, but also there is an app called the Nuzlocke Tracker. It's also a website that you can use, and it has a lot of good information. It's not perfect, but it does have a lot of locations for encounters. It shows you all the different battles that you're going to go through, the level caps of those battles, the Pokemon they're going to have, movesets, held items, stuff like that, the damage that each move has at base. It's a really good thing to have access to because my knowledge of these games is vast. However, there's a lot of games and things cross over from the different generations, and we tend to forget things, so it's nice to have a little helper as we plan out these battles and go through each and every run. With the knowledge that I have of these different games, I chose to play Pokemon Black as opposed to Pokemon White because of the 7th encounter we have access to. In Pokemon White, it would be a Rufflet. In Pokemon Black, it's a Vullaby. I think the Vullaby gives us a little bit better type diversity, so that is why we chose this run. If we had chosen Pokemon White, we would get to do some EV training in the Pinwheel Forest after the 2nd gym, but in Pokemon Black, you can't do the special attack EV training until you get to the Desert Resort, taking on Maractus and Sigilyphs, which is another encounter that we can get. Getting burned from the Tepig at this point is terrible. We're sitting at 14 HP as Purloin comes out, and we don't take it out with a Gust. Growl is perfectly fine, but that does lower our attack for quick attack if we choose to use it. A Tail Whip from Assist is perfectly fine. Another Gust takes this thing low. We're sitting at 6 HP, and I should have gone for Gust, but I go for Quick Attack. Assist pulls, Tail Whip, oh my god, we got so lucky as we sit at 2 HP, defeating Charon. The first gym of Pokemon Black and White is one of my favorite gyms. You have to battle one of 3 trainers, whichever one has a super effective Pokemon against the starter you chose. Now technically we chose Snivy, so we have to take on Chili and his Pansear. The Lillipup's going for workups, we're doing some decent damage, not quite half with quick attack. Unfortunately, we put this thing into healing range, so Chili uses a potion, but looking at the damage output here, things are a bit concerning. As a matter of fact, I did look at Delta after this battle to see why, because we did some EV training and stuff and we should be doing some decent damage. It's because Delta has 25 IVs total, not 25 in one stat. That is total IVs, and had I paid attention to that when we reset, we would have just reset again to get a better Pokemon. Now, as the Panseer comes out, we are sitting at decent health, but we're not quite doing a third, and he does 10 damage on the dot with Incinerate, which means after the second Incinerate, we're sitting at 10 HP, and we put this thing on a sliver of health, and we wipe. Well, attempt number 3. Now, Delta version 3 has a quirky neutral nature and much better IVs. Total, we have 106, which still isn't great, but a 31 attack IV versus a 0 attack IV is a huge, huge change. I also decided to switch up to the female protagonist, as I've never played with the female protagonist in Gen 5, and Game Freak really goes with traditional color schemes here. Blue for the male, pink for the female, everything is pink. There is so much pink. It's crazy. Well, I guess the Pokedex is pretty normal, but you get my point. As you'll notice, another thing that I've swapped up is the starter that we chose. We technically chose the Oshawott for the Pidove this time. That does give our rivals the Snivy and Tepig lines respectively. I know we're going to be super effective against them, but trust me, there are plenty of uphill battles that we have in this run, so we're doing ourselves just a little bit of favors here as we progress. Now, a critical hit was nice turn 1, and then after a potion, 2 quick attacks take out the Lillipup, so we are sitting at 35 HP before the Pansage comes out. Once again, we have a super effective move, so the gym here is going to be relatively easy, but as I said, things do get difficult. The very next gym trainer, trust me, is going to be anybody's call if we can actually beat it, or if we're going to have to wipe and try this one more time. Really, these wipes do take a decent amount of time to get through the tutorial portion and get this far. The Charon battle on Route 3 is going to be relatively easy. He's got a Snivy and a Purloin that we should be able to take out with a couple of attacks. What's coming up next is going to be much more difficult, the battle with Lenora. Her level cap is 20, which means Pidove is not going to evolve. It doesn't evolve until level 21, making it one of the worst Route 1, and I say that in quotes, birds. We are going to get another encounter before we take her on that can evolve, so we will have a fully evolved Pokemon, but we can't do any special attack EV training with it, so things are going to get very difficult, and I'm hoping for the best. In the Wellspring Cave, we can get the TM4 Thief, as well as our next encounter, a Woobat that we have nicknamed United. United has a naughty plus attack and minus special defense nature. That's fine. It evolves via friendship, so we are going to run around the cave and get this thing's friendship up, so at least we have a fully evolved Pokemon. This is a twofer, because not only can we raise its friendship, but we can also find the different gems in the dust clouds, so we're in for a little bit of a grind. And after a bit of running around, Woobat evolves into a Swoobat. Again, we can't do any special attack EV training, but having a fully evolved Pokemon on the team should help us tremendously. Before we can take on Lenora, however, we do have a battle with N. His team is not that scary at this point. His Pidove is going to be 2-shot from quick attack. Our damage output is very good considering we did a little bit more EV training. His Tympole that comes out next I'm not really worried about, and though we are a normal type Pokemon, his Timber in the back is weak to flying, so I'm not too worried about it. Plus that Held Oranberry helps out a ton. Tympole goes down in a couple of quick attacks because we have some pretty decent attack power, and then an Air Cutter gets a critical hit to take out the Timber. Again, not that difficult at this point. With the Pokemon we have available to us and the training that we can do, the strategizing for the battle with Lenora took a very long time. We're leading United against her Herdier that has Intimidate. We're a special attacker, so the attack drop doesn't matter. A Psychic Gem boosted Confusion is a range to KO, and we get the favorable range. Very nice one-shot there. As the Watchog comes out, it has double-powered Retaliate at this point, so it is a bit risky to stay in, but we're never dead to a non-crit. Watchog just goes for a Leer, and we do about a quarter with Confusion. Another confusion is going to take the Watchhog to below half, and then it tries to go for Hypnosis. Okay, I don't want to put this thing in healing range, but we do anyway with a Heart Stamp, and we get put to sleep with Hypnosis. So we swap into Delta on what should be a super potion, and it is very nice. A held Chesto Berry would have been nice, but we needed the Psychic Gem, and we needed the normal gem on Delta. Air Cutter doesn't do that much, so I switch it up for Quick Attack. I was hoping for a nice KO from a decent range there. We didn't get it. A Hypnosis is very scary as we stay asleep, and Watchhog hits us with a Retaliate, doing 25 HP of damage. Luckily, we wake up very quickly, take Watchhog down to a sliver, get taken to a sliver of our own, and take it out. We could have afforded to lose Delta here, but that would have crippled the team for a good portion of the game. As a reward, we do get to see an evolution where Delta evolves into a Tranquil. Very welcome addition to the team, nice bulk added, and a little bit more attack power. And in typical Gen 5 fashion, we get flashed in an alleyway by some dude wearing glasses. Put it away, guy. Thank you. Berg and his bug types really don't stand a chance against my flying type team. However, no special attack EV training, we have to kind of do this with raw power, and our special attack is not that great on Delta. An Air Cutter still does half of Whirlipede's health, and a poison from Poison Tail would definitely put a damper in the plans, but luckily, we don't get that. I do have the held Eviolite on Delta right now so that we can take less damage from Dwebble, which is a little bit concerning with super effective stab smackdowns. Does a decent amount of damage there with a crit down to 23 HP. We can heal up that damage with Roost and lose our flying type for one turn here so that another smackdown doesn't do that much damage. The plan here is to go for a quick attack just for a little bit of chip so that we don't put Dwebble in the healing range. Tank another smackdown at 31 HP, use Roost to heal ourselves almost up to full, 66 HP to be exact, and then another smackdown does minimal damage before we take it out with another Air Cutter. As the Levani comes out, it is quad weak to flying. Unfortunately for us, it is going to outspeed, and because of our low special attack, we don't one-shot it with a quad super effective stab move. So we take it out with another Air Cutter. Ooh, that was a speed tie. I was incorrect. Very nice. After defeating Berg, we have back-to-back rival battles with Bianca and Charon. We can heal in between them, so it's not that scary. Bianca was relatively easy to take out, and the only thing that is scary about the battle with Charon is the fact that there's a sandstorm brewing. Other than that, his team is going to be very easy for us to take down. After we defeat Charon, we'll get access to Route 4, and more importantly, the Desert Resort, where we can actually double our encounters. We can go from 2 Pokemon to 4, and one of the Pokemon that we're going to get, the Archon from the fossil, we know is a very good Pokemon, as we used it quite extensively in our rock-only run. The rival battles, because we've given them the Pokemon that we are super effective against, aren't that scary. Still, we could be taken out. We do have to do a little bit of heal up here with Delta in this battle just to stay healthy. The Panpour is never really that big of a threat, and we let the Sandstorm do a little bit of chip damage so that we don't put Pokemon into healing range. Also, with access to the Desert Resort, we can finally do some special attack EV training. I'm not really going to do much with Delta, though our flying type moves are special at this moment. They're not going to be for much longer. United is going to benefit from it, and once we get a Sigilyph, it is also going to benefit from some special attack EV training. Again, letting the Sandstorm do some chip damage to the Liepard here, doing our heavy lifting for us, and with Roost keeping us healthy, Charon really wasn't that big of an issue. Let's move on. The first Pokemon we get is a Sigilyph named Southwest. It has a serious neutral nature. It's a psychic flying type like United before it, but I think this Pokemon is a little bit better. Reviving the fossil gives us an Archon that we nickname Spirit with a bashful neutral nature. What is with these neutral natures? I'm not complaining, I will take it. This Pokemon is absolutely amazing. Before doing a lot of the events of Nimbasa City, we can head to Route 5 in Rustling Grass and find ourselves in Emolga that we named Frontier. It too has a quirky neutral nature. This is also going to be a key component in defeating Elisa. Before we take on Elisa, of course, we have to battle N. N is mad at us because we denied his request to marry him. His Sandile is going to go down to a single return. It is a nasty stab option for Delta at this point, and Delta has max friendship because of the running around we did with United to evolve it before the Lenora battle. so Darumaka also falls to a return, 2 in and 2 out. His next Pokemon is going to be a Scraggy. We do resist the fighting type moves. Air Cutter doesn't one-shot it because, again, we didn't do any special attack EV training with Delta. It is more of a physical attacker. I do risk it here and hurt myself in confusion. Luckily, though, a Brick Break would have never KO'd us even if it had crit. I don't want to lose Delta at this point, so it's a swap into United on a quad-resisted Brick Break. We have done some special attack EV training with this Pokemon, just a little bit, and Air Cutter knocks out the Scraggy. It was a critical hit too, but that didn't matter. As the Sigilyph comes out, we're sitting in prime position, I think, to take on this Pokemon. Unfortunately, Assurance doesn't do half because we didn't do physical attack EV training, and it sets up the Tailwind. We do get outsped and hit with a nasty Air Cutter before taking this thing to a Sliver, but it was a speed tie, and we outspeed it and KO it with another Assurance. Upcoming, we have the battle with Elisa, who is by far at this point the hardest gym trainer that we are going to have to battle. Her Pokemon are very scary, they hit very hard, and I've spent an annoying amount of time planning for this battle. I thought planning for Lenora took a long time. It pales in comparison of the time that we put in to what we're going to do in this battle. My original plan was to lead Archon, super effective Rock Tombs to take out the Emolgas. It can learn Dig to take out the Zebstrika, but unfortunately we don't outspeed any of her Pokemon. The only Pokemon I have that does outspeed is our newest addition to the team, United. And there we had to go do a lot of EV training and plan this one out to a T, and we still need just a little bit of RNG luck to get us through this battle. None of my other Pokemon can really swap in. I do have Delta here that is fodder technically if we need fodder. United is a second behind that, but I never like going into these battles with the plan that we're going to lose a Pokemon. We want to do this stuff deathless. And here is my plan played out in real time. Against the Emolga, I lead Frontier, my own Emolga. We're going to go for a charge turn 1 to boost our special defense and also buff our attack. After the Emolga goes for Volt Switch and brings out the second Emolga, we can tag this one with a Spark that is going to one-shot. It would not one-shot without that charge. This is going to bring out the first Emolga, who we can just use Spark against and do some damage. She's probably going to Volt Switch out, so we'll go for a return because of the Lightning Rod on the Zebstrika, unless we get a critical hit to knock out the first Emolga. Okay, that changes things just slightly. Now, a return should do about half. That was an extremely low roll, and we survive a non-critical hit Spark. We do get paralyzed, but that is fine. Cherry Berry was equipped for this specific reason. Return then gets a little bit higher of a roll, and we knock out the Zebstrika, and we did it deathless. Well, you remember how I said knowledge is key to winning this run? Well, I forgot about the Charon battle here on Route 5, as I've been out to Route 5 before and I didn't have to battle him before we took out Elisa, but you do have to battle after. A fake out from the Liepard is a little bit annoying, but then we can hit this thing with a nasty Spark for well over half. Pursuit then procs our static ability, so the Liepard is paralyzed. That really doesn't matter as we take it out with another Spark. Frontier actually is a great counter here because Pampor comes out next, and I was a little perplexed, but we go for a Spark and it does one-shot. Tripped over my words there just for a second. As the Tranquil comes out, I decide to Volt Switch out after a quick attack that does proc our static ability to bring out a Pokemon that has a flying type move. Didn't think I would level up here and learn Acrobatics, but we do. So I should have left Frontier out there. No matter, we're going to teach Acrobatics over Charge and charge forward. I should probably bring out like Southwest here or United, but I bring out Delta. Again, Delta doesn't have the special attack here, but one track mind. We do get a critical hit from Air Cutter taking Servine low. Citrus Berry heals it up a little bit as it goes for growth, and then we're at a speed time because it outspeeds and hits us with a Leaf Tornado, but it does very minimal damage, and we can take it out after we miss with an Air Cutter, and it misses with a Leech Seed, another missed Air Cutter, then we take it out. Long-winded. On the Drift Veil Drawbridge, we can get a Ducklet named JetBlue that also has a quirky neutral nature, and this Pokemon is going to be the key to defeating Clay. I'm excited to use it. I'm excited to see this little duck beat an Excadrill. As I said moments ago, going up against Clay and his ground-type Pokemon shouldn't be that difficult for my flying-type Pokemon, however they do have rock-type moves. The Krokorok is naturally outsped and one-shot with Scald that we got as a TM in the cold storage. As the Excadrill comes out, we should be able to two-shot this thing, but it goes for Honeclaws. Wait. It outspeeds. That's not good. Scald takes this thing low. We don't get the burn. Oh my goodness. Miss, 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 and it doesn't miss. No crit, no crit. Oh. We barely survived to take out the Excadrill with a Scald. I thought we outsped. I did like max speed EV training. Oh my goodness. Oh, JetBlue survived on a sliver. That was very scary. We're going to go ahead and bring Frontier out on a Muddy Water that actually just misses, and then we can one-shot with a base 110 Acrobatics from Frontier. Very nice. Now, up until this point, the only rival battle I didn't show was the Bianca battle in the Gatehouse before Route 4. It's because her Pokemon are really not that scary. The team can be countered, and even if we start losing more health than we need to with a Pokemon like Delta, taking a massive amount of damage from Takedown, we can just swap in a Pokemon like Frontier that has Stab, Acrobatics, and without a held item, it's base 110 power. Yeah, it's a nasty little move, and we're going to be able to walk through all of Bianca's battles, all of Charon's battles, and the end battles. So I think from this point forward, unless something crazy happens, we're just not going to show any more of these battles. We're just going to continue on with the run. Before heading into the next gym to take on the Flying type gym leader Skyla, we have a couple of evolutions, starting out with Delta evolving into the ugly version of Unpheasant. And then after the beautiful showing in the clay battle, JetBlue evolves into a Swanna. This is an absolutely amazing Pokemon. My original plan to take on Skyla and her flying types was to lead Spirit and Stab super effective rock type moves. However, her Swanna is a nasty Pokemon that would easily be able to take out Spirit. We don't learn Rock Slide until level 45. It doesn't evolve until level 37. We can't get into the Mistralton Cave to get the TM for Rock Slide until after we get the HM for Surf, which is after we defeat Skyla. So we lead Frontier, who's going to take out most of her Pokemon with relative ease. We don't one-shot the Unpheasant, but it's just going for a Razor Wind, so a second Spark takes it out. Her Swanna is quad weak to Electric-type moves, so I mean, how did you guys think this was going to go? A quad super effective Spark is easily going to one-shot the Swanna, winning us the 6th gym badge. Which also grants us the TM for Acrobatics, which is a great move as we've showcased in many different runs. However, Frontier can learn it, and already has learned it. Spirit also has already learned it, and the only other Pokemon that can is United, which is a special attacker, so this TM's actually useless. Okay, fine. I was going to wait to evolve Spirit until it learned some moves via level up, like Rock Slide at level 45. However, upon further investigation, all of the moves I'm waiting for, it learns via TMs that we can get relatively soon. When it comes to Bryson, our options are limited, and that is the biggest reason that we let Spirit evolve. We taught it Rock Slide via the TM from Mistralton Cave, and we lead. We are going to outspeed and one-shot every single one of his Pokemon. We also have the held wide lens, making these moves 99% accurate. There still is that 1% chance they can miss, but luckily for us, it doesn't against the Vanillix or the Beartic. An Ice-type move would take us out if it crit, so I'm very worried about that. Our backup plan was Southwest that knows Flash Cannon via the TM from Twist Mountain, but it's not Stab, so I don't know that we would one-shot. The Cryogonal has very weak defense and goes down to a single Rock Slide as well. And then of course in the Dragon Spiral Tower, we get this cool cutscene seeing Zekrom. Another reason that we chose to play Pokemon Black is because this gives in the Zekrom that is Dragon Electric, giving us a really difficult challenge in the end game. Drayden is last up for the Gym Trainer Challenge, and his Dragon Pokemon are a very big challenge. I don't have any super effective moves, nobody can learn any Ice-type moves. Spirit can learn Dragon Claw, but it's not found in the Dragon Spiral Tower like it is in Black 2 and White 2, it's found in Victory Road. And Acrobatics does KO the Fracture, but this brings out the Druddigon that is very scary. Acrobatics takes it low, Rough Skin does some chip, and then Night Slash gets a critical hit down to 33 HP. I should swap out here on the heal, but I stay in and go for another Acrobatics, hoping for some decent damage, and this one doesn't quite do half. Sitting at 17 HP, I cannot risk Spirit, it is a vital part to the endgame, so we bring in Frontier. Frontier gets hit with a chip away, does a decent amount of damage surprisingly, and then Acrobatics takes out the Drudagon. Rough Skin drops us down to 49 HP, and this brings out the Haxorus. That is a very, very scary Pokemon. Not wanting to stay in with Frontier and risk it, we go for a Volt Switch for some chip. It is resisted. I'm just going to bring out United. United hasn't seen a lot of screen time since the Nora battle, and Haxorus goes for Dragon Dance. That does make things very scary, but we do have Psychic. Another Dragon Dance puts this thing at +2, and Psychic takes it low. An Assurance from the Haxorus is very scary. We were dead to a crit there, but never punished, as another Psychic takes it out. This gets us our final encounter of the game, a Volibee that we named Allegiant that has a Timid, plus speed, and minus attack in nature. That's perfectly fine. I will take it. It is in my honest opinion that the badge checks in Generation 5, Black and White, Black 2, and White 2, are some of the best in the entire Pokemon franchise. I love the throwback to the different gyms, just the thought process that went into all of these different gates is super cool. I've mentioned it many times before. I did decide to bench Delta for the Elite Four battles. It's done us very good thus far, but here is the team all leveled up and ready to take on the Elite Four. Our newest teammate Allegiant with Air Slash, Dark Pulse, Incinerate, and Rock Smash. Southwest with Psychic, Air Slash, Flash Cannon, and Shadow Ball. Spirit with Rock Slide, U-Turn, Acrobatics, and Dig. United with Air Slash, Psychic, Calm Mind, and Shadow Ball. Frontier with Acrobatics, Spark, Encore, and Volt Switch. And last but certainly not least is Jet Blue with Surf, Air Slash, Roost, and Feather Dance. Chantal is first up for the Elite Four because we typically have the easiest matchup against her, and this time is no different. We are going to lead Allegiant with the Choice Specs and Dark Pulse. Unfortunately, we never one-shot the Cofarigas, so we're going to put this thing in a heal lock and burn both of her full restores, which is really nice. We do have to tank a Shadow Ball in the process, but we do very nicely. Now, Volibee doesn't evolve into a Mana Buzz until level 54, and I believe Pokemon Black has the static Mana Buzz encounter. I didn't want the static encounter because it has the hidden ability. I wanted this, and this was the route that I was going to go. We did pick up some rare candies on our way through the game, so I am going to evolve this Pokemon after we defeat the Elite Four. It's going to stay a Volibee through the Elite Four, and then evolve into a Mana Buzz later. Now, Chandelure is probably going to go for a Fire Blast, so it is a swap into Jet Blue on a Mist Fire Blast, which is absolutely amazing, and then an Expert Belt boosted Surf takes out the Chandelure. I should have just stayed in the Battle Subway and got another Choice Specs, but it is what it is. As the Jellicent comes out, I can't really stay in against this thing as we don't have great moves, so I'm going to swap into Frontier. As Frontier swaps in, we tank a Shadow Ball to the face. This would KO us if it crits, so I don't want to risk it going for a Volt Switch. Does a decent little bit of damage, and we're going to bring Allegiant back out. Allegiant comes out on a Surf that we tank very nicely, and then with the Choice Specs, we can take this thing out with the Dark Pulse. If Surf had got a crit there, it would have KO'd us, ruining plans for the future. So, that was a little bit risky. Our last Pokemon is Golurk. Again, Golurk doesn't have much that it can do against a flying type team, but it is a swap into Jet Blue here as I don't want to risk Allegiant any further. We tank a Brick Break on the swap in, and then an Expert Belt boosted Stab super effective Surf one-shots the Golurk. Next up is Grimsley and his Dark types. We don't have a great matchup here, but we don't have a bad matchup either. Against the Scrafty, I decide to lead Frontier, and you would think we'd take it out with Acrobatics, but actually we're going to burn a turn hoping this thing goes for Sand Attack, which it didn't. I was really hoping it would. Now we're going to go for an Electric Gem boosted Volt Switch to do some chip damage, put this thing in a little bit better of a range, and bring out Spirit. There is a plan here formulating because the Bisharp that is going to be baited out next is a very dangerous Pokemon. We tank a Crunch and we can take out the Scrafty here with an Acrobatics. We would have never one-shot this thing with an Acrobatics from full health. And we need a Ground Gem for the Bisharp that comes out next, because a Ground Gem boosted Dig will actually one-shot this Pokemon, getting rid of a very huge threat on Grimsley's team. Very nice. This is of course going to bring out the Crocodile next. It has Intimidate, which is whatever, because we are going to U-turn out. Now without an Intimidate, that would have probably put this thing in healing range, so I'm very thankful for the Intimidate, and now we can bring in Jet Blue. JetBlue comes in on a stab foul play that would have KO'd if it had crit, but were never punished, and a Specs boosted Surf takes out the Crocodile from the health it was at. His last Pokemon is Liepard, not a great Pokemon. It is going to hit us for a little bit of chip with Fake Out, which is annoying. We were never dead to a crit there, and a Specs boosted Surf, that is Stab, takes out the Liepard. Like Chantal, I typically am not scared of Caitlyn. However, her team has some pretty good movesets against Flying-type Pokemon. Her Reuniclus has Thunder, her Sigilyph has Ice Beam. This could be dangerous. A Flying Gym boosted Acrobatics is enough to knock out the Reuniclus, and this is going to bring out the Sigilyph. I should go for Rock Slide here, but I don't actually want to KO this thing. I want to put it in healing range. We can tank a non-critical hit Ice Beam. That was a very risky play there, as Spirit is the key to defeating N, but I had to do what I had to do to get through the Elite Four. We swap in our own Sigilyph on the full restore turn, and now with the Choice Specs and Shadow Ball, we should be able to mop the rest of her Pokemon up. Sigilyph goes down to a single Shadow Ball. Gothitelle is going to come out next, and it too is going to fall to a Shadow Ball. Of course, we have to go through the rigmarole of trying to learn Sky Attack that we're not going to learn. Now, her last Pokemon is Musharna, and as I said before, I didn't realize how bulky this Pokemon is. It does not go down to a single super effective Shadow Ball with the Choice Specs, and we get hit with a Shadow Ball in return that would have KO'd if it had crit. I didn't know that. I didn't do damage calculations in this battle. We go unpunished though, and we knock out the Musharna with one more Shadow Ball. Marshall is last up, and he has given me the biggest problems in the Elite Four, and this time is going to be no different. Even though we have super effective moves into all of his Pokemon, he has Rock-type moves on both Throw and Sock to take us out, plus Sock has Sturdy. A Flying Gym boosted Acrobatics one-shots the Throw, and this brings in Sock. Sock, we can break its Sturdy with a Volt Switch, and we can bring in Spirit. However, a Stone Edge from Sock will KO if it crits, but it also can miss, so this is risky, but not risky at the same time. Stone Edge actually hits and takes us to 22 HP. That was very, very risky. It could have missed. It really could have. But anyway, we take out the Sock with an Acrobatics, and this brings out the Conkeldurr. I don't want to stay in against this thing, so we just U-turn out. We should be baiting a Hammer Arm from this thing despite our flying type, so we can bring in Southwest with the Choice Specs and Psychic, and we should be able to mop up from here. We do in fact get hit with a Hammer Arm that does very minimal damage because of our quad resistance, and then a Stab, super effective Choice Specs boosted Psychic takes out the Conkeldurr. Very nice. A little bit risky, but we made it through this battle deathless, and that is always the key, right? We made it through the Elite Four without a single death. Going into the end battle, this is a very, very good position. And now we get to watch the cool cutscene with N's castle coming out of the desert, because that's where, you know, it's just been hanging out. Makes sense, sure. I'm making fun of this, but to be honest with you, Gen 5, great storyline, great games. Their replayability is absolutely amazing. It doesn't matter which gen of Pokemon you started with. If you come back to Generation 5, I almost guarantee you will absolutely love this game. Of course, all the bridges jot out into the Champion's Room, so now we get to head through the castle and do a little bit of exploring. Whilst in there, I decided to go ahead and evolve Allegiant into a Mandibuzz, as we spoke about at the beginning of the Elite Four. We're going to have a fully evolved team heading into End. Now, back when we did the rock-only run of Pokemon Black, I used my Master Ball to catch the Terrakion. That was a very, very big mistake, as I had to go up against the Reshiram and catch it with a Ultra Ball. We were smart, didn't use our Master Ball here, so we catch the Reshiram. Now, unfortunately, going up against N and his Zekrom, this is where my deathless streak is going to end. I don't see any path forward. United didn't see much time in the Elite Four, and all it's going to do is rip a Psychic Gem boosted Psychic for some chip, and then a Fusion Bolt that is super effective against my entire team is going to one-shot. There was no way I was ever going to one-shot the Zekrom without a critical hit from a Dragon Gem boosted Dragon Claw, so I had to make a sacrifice, but that sacrifice was not in vain. Zekrom goes down. See, there's a critical hit. Damn it. Maybe we could have won. A Rock Slide was taught over Acrobatics to take out the Vanillix. I didn't want to get rid of U-Turn for the next battle, which is against the Caracosta. Caracosta has Sturdy. It also has Stone Edge, which is stab and super effective. So Spirit's going to go for a U-turn, breaking its Sturdy, and then it's a swap into Southwest, which may seem a little bit weird. The reason for this is they held Focus Sash as we tank the Stone Edge and survive on 1 HP. This should bait Aqua Jet, so we get a safe swap into Jet Blue. As we swap in, we do get hit with the aforementioned Aqua Jet, and at this point, that is all she wrote. We have the choice specs, we have Surf, it's stab, it's super effective against some of these Pokemon, and we're going to be able to wash away the rest of N's team so that United Sacrifice was again not in vain. It knew what it was getting into when it came into the Elite Four. It was always fodder. I just didn't want to, but we had to. The Clean Clay goes down to a stab, Surf, choice specs boosted, the Archeops, it's stab super effective, and the last Pokemon is going to be his Zoroark, which is also going to go down to a stab, choice specs boosted Surf. Jet Blue, absolutely amazing, washing away N's Pokemon. Now Ghetsis is all that stands in our way of defeating this run. He leads with Cofferegus and our team has been fully healed, so United is up front. This is going to be a swap, obviously, immediately into Allegiant as United fell in the last battle. That baits in a Shadow Ball instead of a Toxic, which we tank nicely. It then goes for Protect. Normally it goes for Toxic, then Protect, but whatever. We hit it with a Dark Pulse the next turn that does well over half, and then it tags us with Toxic. I should have put a Pecha Berry on Allegiant here, but I was not thinking that far ahead. It doesn't go for Protect, so another Dark Pulse takes out the Cofferegus. Very nice. Bisharp is going to be baited in next with a super effective Stone Edge, but we have a Fighting Gem boosted Rock Smash. It's not going to KO this thing, but it does do a significant amount of damage, and Stone Edge misses. What? I honestly didn't expect that. I expected to lose Allegiant here and swap in a Pokemon to take this out, so we just go for another Rock Smash. It gets a defense drop, but doesn't take it out, and Stone Edge takes out Allegiant. Dang it. Well, this brings in Spirit, and Ghetsis goes for a full restore. Now, I thought Ghetsis had 2 full restores, but I was mistaken. The defense drop means that Dig will one-shot the Bisharp. That is perfectly fine. This, of course, is going to bait out the Seismitoad with Muddy Water, so it is going to be a U-turn out at this point. We cannot tank a Muddy Water. I decide to just bring in Jet Blue. I didn't know who else to bring in, and Seismitoad goes for Rain Dance instead of Muddy Water. Okay, that's random as hell. A rain-boosted Choice Specs Surf takes out the Seismitoad. This does bring in the Bouffalante because it has Wild Charge. I didn't know if we could KO this thing, but I thought we could do enough damage that Wild Charge would take it out. I was mistaken all the way around. We get one shot, and then Wild Charge leads Bouffalante on a sliver of health. This is where I thought that Ghetsis had 2 full restores, because I decided to bring in Frontier that is holding a Flying Gem, and so I go for a Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics, because I thought Ghetsis was going to heal. Okay, well, we take out the Bouffalante nonetheless. The Hydreigon comes out, and we just go for Acrobatics. The Rain is still active. It hits us with a Surf, but Frontier survives on 6 HP. Well, I can't risk Frontier at this point, so it's going to be a Volt Switch out for a little bit of chip, and we're going to bring Spirit back in with super effective Dragon Claw. We are losing a couple members of the team quite quickly. We avoid the Fire Blast, and then a Dragon Claw does in fact take out the Hydreigon, which is a big, big threat. Just a beastly, beastly Pokemon. His last Pokemon is Electros. There's not much we can do here. We're just going to go for a Rock Slide to do significant damage and get the flinch. Okay, let's go. Rock Slide miss. Damn it. Wild Charge then takes us out and does a lot of chip damage to Electros, so I just bring Frontier back in because why not? And we're just going to go for an Acrobatics that should take out the Electros and wins us the Ghetsis battle, but at a huge, huge loss. Obviously, the ultimate goal of any of these Nuzlockes is to do them deathless, and throwing away Pokemon in a battle is never something I take lightly, nor something I like to do. I've seen a lot of other Nuzlockers that do it. They get into the last battle or certain battles, and they know they have more encounters, so they just throw them away as needed. It sucks to lose these 4 Pokemon. United really was the only one that didn't do much, but the rest of them had a huge part in the team, and United was critical getting us through the second gym, so again, losing that Pokemon is not something I wanted. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was extremely fun to do, and I'm glad we completed the flying-only run of Pokemon Black. If you did enjoy the run, you know the routine. Leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you've made it this far. Thank you once again for the continued support. Thank you once again for watching, and as always, I will see you on the next one.